Welcome to the Thursday, September 8th, 2022 meeting of the Ann Arbor Historic District Commission. The meeting is being held in person and electronically via Zoom. Members of the public who would like to comment on hearings or other matters may do so via telephone only. To speak during any of the public comment opportunities, please call 888-788-0099 or 213-338-8477 and enter meeting ID 978-6401-4515. This information is also available on the published agenda and in the public notices section of the city website, and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN Channel 16, AT&T Channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watchctn. So we intend to conduct this meeting similarly to an in-person meeting. However, please be patient if there are any technical issues. And just a reminder that public comment will be on the telephone only.
No, that's not right.
Okay, we will accept public comment through the telephone, in person, and on Zoom as well.
Yes.
Moving on. We're going to go to roll call. Ms. Thatcher, will you please call the roll?
Thank you. Commissioner Quijano. Here. Commissioner Fortner. Commissioner Rockland.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Ross. Commissioner Willis.
Here.
Commissioner Epperson. You have a quorum, and I do expect one or two more.
Okay, I'll talk slowly.
No, no, don't. You're fine.
Part C of the meeting is approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes to tonight's agenda? Looking over here. Okay. Hearing and seeing no objection, the agenda is approved as presented. Now we'll move on to D, public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about an issue that is not listed as a public hearing on this agenda. To comment on such other preservation matters, please call. This is a different phone number than I just listed earlier. I'm just seeing that. I'm going to use the one on the agenda. Right?
Yes.
Top of the agenda here. Okay. This is the number to call, 206-337-9723 or 213-338-8477 or 877-853-5247 or 888-788-0099. Enter meeting ID 965-3669-9762. So you have to electronically raise your hand by hitting *9 on your phone, and you will hear an announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. You have 3 minutes. Do we have anyone?
I don't see any callers raising their hands in the Zoom room. You might want to take a look at the audience.
No one at the audience coming to the podium, so we'll move on to E, unfinished business, and there is no unfinished business, so we'll move right on to F, hearings, and we will now start on hearing F1, 208 West Liberty. Ms. Thatcher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 208 West Liberty is the single-story labor hall. It was constructed in 1930. Features a deep brick cornice, arched transoms. Hang on. There we go. Steel casement windows and brick and stone trim. This was once John Sinclair's Rainbow Multimedia Corporation business address. It was painted in 1976. Architects 4 and several other businesses had offices here in the 80s. It was used as the Union Hall kitchen in the 2000s, where cooking was done for the former Mark's Carts. And in 2017, the space was converted into Chow Restaurant. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to install a fabric awning with an aluminum frame on the storefront. There's actually several fabric awnings. Let me run through this. Sorry. There we go. So it's an interesting building. It's very unique to downtown Ann Arbor because it has all these arch-topped windows. The windows are cool. They're steel. They're not even casements down below. They have a little window within the larger window, so only the center pane's open. And then up on top, there's a sort of a modified spiderweb design or sunrise design. Or it doesn't really match anything that you would see in a modern catalog. If you look closely, you'll see that there are two courses of decorative brick here, all the way down. One stands a little bit proud of the rest of the face brick, and then one is a little bit inset, about an inch. And then these guys are inset even farther. This is all brick down below the sill as well. The proposal is to mount awnings over these arch tops on the outer course of brick. Here's a photo on the top of what it looks like now, and a photo on the bottom with the proposed awnings. Normally, the Historic District Design Guidelines say no waterfall or curved awnings, but that is a little bit different here because it typically applies to rectangular or square windows. I can think of a certain ice cream business on East Liberty that has waterfall awnings over their transom, and it doesn't really fit the historic character of the building. This is a little bit different because they're already starting with round tops. These awnings are little. You can see that each one says evergreen on it as well. They're only 4 feet 4 inches wide, 2 feet 2 inches tall and deep. I'm not sure if they're intended to be used for shading. We'll get to the applicant in just a second. Maybe he can answer that. They may just be more decorative. And there's information on attachments to the wall and the frame, and there's more in the packet that I didn't include here. The fasteners will be placed into mortar joints only. That's prominent here on the plans. And let's see. The only other thing I wanted to mention before I get into the standards is you'll notice up here there's an X near the old Chow sign, and it says existing sign will be removed. Want to talk to the applicant about that as well, because we noticed when the review committee was out that recently was refaced and now says evergreen, as if it's not going to be removed. I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I'd just like to know if that should be a part of this or not. It sounds like maybe it shouldn't. Let's see. From the Secretary of Interior Standards, number 2 says the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. Number 9 says new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. From the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for storefronts, it's not recommended to introduce a new design that is incompatible in size, scale, material, and color, or to use inappropriately scaled signs and logos or other types of signs that obscure, damage, or destroy remaining character-defining features of the historic building. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's appropriate for projecting the awning from the face of the building no more than 4 feet. And this is fine. This is only a little over 2 feet. It's also appropriate to attach the awning just below the storefront cornice and fitting it within the storefront opening, and mounting the awning or banners on masonry structures through the mortar joints. It's not appropriate, here's that one, to use box, curved, or waterfall-shaped awnings. So, let's see, let's go back up to the pictures. These awnings are really very small. If they're mounted in the mortar joints, I have no objections. You'll still be able to see that cool half-round window. Maybe not so much from the street. They're kind of hard to notice anyway from the street, and if nothing else, this will be a little bit extra protection for them. Let's see, I don't have a whole lot more to add on this application. Staff does recommend approval because they're compatible with the building and do not detract from the historic character of the building. Should also note that there really aren't any close neighbors here. There aren't any awnings nearby. We've got Downtown Home and Garden just to the east, to the right, and to the left, it's the end of the historic district, and there's there's a small block office building that's pretty nondescript past a parking lot. So staff does recommend approval of this application. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Well, Commissioners Quijano and Fortner were on the review committee. Can you please give us your report and recommendations?
I really don't have much more to add to staff's report. Very thorough, and really we were just looking at the, that outer coursing of brick and, the mortar joints. I think in the application it says that they'd be mounted through the mortar joints. All the brick looks pretty well intact. It is painted, but it looks in good shape. So I would also support this application.
I missed this one.
Okay. Very good. So we've got the applicant, you're the applicant, I assume, right?
Yes.
So can you please provide your name and address for the record? You have up to 5 minutes to speak, and we just would like to know if you have anything to add to the staff report or the review committee report, or really any comments whatsoever.
Dale Boucher, Mary Grove Awning, 12700 Merriman Road in Livonia, Michigan. It's where the shop is done. We'll make it there, everything. I don't really have a lot to add. Jill did a good job describing it. It's a cloth fabric. It looks nice. I think it'll enhance a little bit, give it a little bit more street appeal. I think it'll look fine. And that's about it. I think we're fine.
Do you happen to know why the owners or the restaurant owners are requesting the awnings? Is it for?
I think it make it easier to identify,
Okay.
to see it. Sometimes these buildings are the same for a long time and no one even notices they're there after a while. And this will help identify that there's something new in there, something to check out.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Just the one question that Jill raised about the existing sign over the entry
Right.
door.
I have no idea. I have no idea what they're doing.
So I guess that's a different application then.
Well, it's yes and no.
Because it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
So if just as long as you don't base your approval on the sign being removed, like condition it or something, I think you're fine.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, you're good.
Yep, okay. Okay, no more questions. I would like to open the public hearing for this item. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes on this application at 208 West Liberty. You can be made by calling the phone number on the top of the agenda and enter the meeting ID also at the top of the agenda. So raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone. There's no one here present to comment publicly, it looks.
I
Anyone
don't see
on the
it.
phone?
No one's raising their hand in the Zoom room, so I think you're good.
Very good, okay. We'll now close the public hearing portion of this application, and I would ask if any commissioner would like to make a motion. Commissioner Beverly.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 208 West Liberty Street, a contributing property in the Main Street Historic District, to install 6 new awnings as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. In particular, standards 2 and 9, and the guidelines for storefronts, and the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for awnings.
Second.
That is moved by Commissioner Willis and seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. Seeing no discussion, We'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application's been approved. Please note you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Dale.
everybody.
Very good. Okay, we will now move on to F2, 628 South First. Ms. Thatcher, staff report, please.
Yes. Just one moment, I want to get the applicant in here. It's not letting her promote for some reason.
Okay.
Oh, there it goes, okay. Okay, 628 South First Street is in the Broadway Historic District. No, it's not. It's in the Old West Side Historic District. We'll be at Broadway later tonight. This is a tiny two-story I-house. Features a full-width front porch and gable corner returns. It appears in the 1894 Polk City Directory as the Fiegel Home at 126 South First, but its construction date is unknown. The two-story front and one-story rear wings appear on the 1925 and 48 Sanborns. The HDC approved replacement of a modern-ish shed roof addition on the rear with a new addition of approximately the same size in 2017. The applicant is seeking HDC approval to construct an 11 by 18-foot brick accessory building in the backyard that would be used for a home gym. All right, looking at the photo here, the front of the house, this is taken from the sidewalk. Where you see those two chairs in the back is where the shed would go approximately. What you're looking at here behind the two chairs is the back of the neighbor's garage on 2nd Street. Now we've walked back and we're even with the new addition on the rear of the house, which looks smashing. Here are the chairs. They've got a garage and a driveway going down by the other side of the house. There's the site once again with that neighbor's brick wall, the back of their garage behind. So here's up in the left-hand corner is the proposed workout shed. It is 11 feet by 18 feet. It's 5 feet off the property lines. Looks like it'll be about 8 feet from that brick wall behind it. It meets code for zoning, for size and placement. And you can see that this is a big lot. This is an original Old West Side city lot that hasn't been divided like most of them have been. It is 133 feet by 66. Elevation drawings of the shed. It is brick. It's a gray brick veneer on the exterior. It has CMU foundation. There are windows facing the street. That's the east elevation here. And on the south side, facing inward toward their own garage, there's a slider and a couple of more windows. A couple of light fixtures flank either side of that south elevation. The shed roof slopes toward the back, toward the north. Floor plan, it's the easiest floor plan ever, 11 by 18. It's got some windows. And I have to say that this is one of the most complete shed applications we've ever seen. It's great. We've got a roof plan here and some sections. And a couple of renderings showing what it would look like, where it would be in the back of the yard. Very modern, but small. I think it's very compatible. From the Secretary of Interior standards, I've already read 2 and 9, both to you. So from the Secretary of Interior's guidelines for building site, it's recommended to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space, to design new exterior additions or adjacent new construction which are compatible with the historic character of the site and preserve the historic landscape between the buildings, landscape features, and open space. from the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines for new residential accessory structures. It's appropriate to retain the historic relationship between buildings, landscape features, and open space, to locate sheds and garages in the rear yard, and to use exterior wall and roof materials that are compatible with historic materials on the main structure and in the neighborhood. This is really a very small building. It's kind of unique to make it out of brick, but that is compatible with the neighborhood. And the shed design and smallness of it is very compatible with a, say, 1920s garage that might have been previously found in this backyard. So staff does recommend approval. It is inconspicuous and located appropriately, and it will not detract from the historic character of the surrounding neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. Commissioners Quijano and Fortner, we're on the review committee. Let's hear your report.
Yeah, nothing much to add. It really will be inconspicuous given that that brick garage wall is there now, and it will be up against that. You know, from the street view, I think people will probably not even realize something has been added there. Very small proportion of the total site.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said already, and it is quite a deep yard property. So you might not even catch it if you're walking along the sidewalk. And also just at that corner where they've located it, we've already talked about the neighbor's brick garage right behind it, and then there's one of the other adjacent properties. There's also a garage structure, so it's kind of appropriate placement as well within the neighboring context.
Thank you very much. So if the applicant is here, please come to the podium. If not, it sounds like they're on Zoom. Is that correct?
Yep.
Unmute your microphone, please. Turn on your video if you can. Hello. So you have up to 5 minutes to speak, but if there's anything you'd like to add to the staff report or the review committee report, now would be the time to do that.
Hi, I have nothing to add. I feel, as the other applicant said before, Jill did a really good job explaining everything. So
Jessica,
I feel like,
hold on one moment.
Sure.
We're not hearing you. Hey,
Oh, no.
CTN,
I can barely hear her.
Yeah.
Like it just sounds like the volume is a little low.
Okay, I'm on a phone. Can you hear me better if I go close?
Again, we're hearing some volume, but we're having a technical moment. Bear with us for just a second here. Jill's going to take a look and see if she can crank up the volume here. She's got a remote control. Bear with us just one moment.
Let me yell.
Okay, if you could state your name
Yeah.
and address for the record. I forgot to ask that of you, so let's do that as a test. Can we hear you?
Of course. Jessica Ford, 628 South First.
Great.
Better?
Yes, much better. Thank you so much. So please continue with your comments. Thank you.
You're welcome, but unfortunately, all of that worked just for me to tell you that I have no comments.
Perfect. That's just fine.
Yeah, Jill did a wonderful job explaining, and we appreciate the time you guys have taken to come out and give us your feedback, so.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we will open the public hearing for this item. Actually, before we do that, Commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
No question.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a quick question.
Okay, we do have a question.
So I see the door schedule, that the door is going to be aluminum. Are the windows also going to be aluminum, or?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that is actually true as far as the aluminum. I think the aluminum is for the sliding door, correct?
I guess that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't have the plans, I don't have the plans in front of me, but I believe that the windows, I think the only reason the windows and the doors would be aluminum is that is what made the most sense to insulate kind of the space. But I don't know that we fully made a decision on the materials that we were using for that.
Okay.
it does say on the east elevation that those windows will be anodized,
Okay.
like the sliding doors.
Yeah,
think
yes.
it looks
There's a
like
window
gold.
schedule as well. In the window schedule, it says
It doesn't
The
have
anodized.
materiality.
clear anodized. Glazing
Okay, which would
contract,
be the,
that's aluminum, yeah. That's
Okay.
shiny, like bright shiny aluminum, yep.
yeah, it'll certainly be a matte aluminum, I can confirm that. Just
Okay.
so nothing will be bright and shiny with this
Okay.
building that we're making.
Okay, got it. So a matte gray aluminum.
Yes, a matte dark gray light would be my guess.
Very good.
Okay.
Commissioner Ross, is that all your questions, or do you have another
Nope, that's it.
question? Okay. Anyone else questions, or should we move to, let's move to the public hearing? Okay, so we'll open the public hearing for this item. It's an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about the application at 628 South First. We've said the phone numbers on the agenda, as well as the meeting ID, and if you're on the phone, you should press *9 to raise your hand.
There's
Anyone?
no one in the waiting room.
Okay, and no one here coming to the podium, so we will close the public hearing for this application, and I'll ask a commissioner if someone would please make a motion on this item. Commissioner Fortner.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 628 South First Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to construct a new accessory structure in the backyard as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement materials, and relationship to the house and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2 and 10, and the guidelines for building site, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, particularly as they pertain to residential accessory structures.
Second.
Okay, that was moved by Commissioner Fortner and seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, I had a question for staff. I was wondering what an I-house is. I don't know that.
Oh, an I-house is a little house that's 1.5 or 2 stories, well, 2 stories, or 1 3/4, that's built with the gables on the sides, and it's not very deep, so they put the gables on the sides to make the house look bigger.
Okay.
So it's usually just 1 room deep originally with a staircase in the center. So you go in the middle, there'd be a staircase going up, room on each side, and then upstairs, there's a room on each side, and that's it. That's the whole house.
Thank you
And
for
it's
that.
not really shaped like an eye. but
Right, okay, yeah,
they just call it
confusing
that.
name.
Yeah, it's a Midwest thing.
Yeah, oh, it is?
Another question for staff. Is the existing garage that's there, is that a contributing structure?
I didn't research that, but it doesn't look like it.
Okay.
It's pretty big.
Yes.
And pretty modern looking.
Okay, I think that does sort of enter into the discussion here, but,
Yeah.
okay. And then I had actually a question for you, Jessica. Can you comment on the color of the brick? Have you decided, it looked like the rendering was gray. Is that your intention, or do you know yet?
I think so, that's our intention, is to stick with gray. The garage is gray currently, and I think that that's kind of sticking kind of with like that neutral color palette is our intent.
Very good. Okay, are there any other comments? If not, we're going to go to a vote. So let's vote. All those in favor of this motion, please say yes.
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 All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jessica.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Okay, moving on. This will be hearing F3. We're going to stay on First Street, 404 South First. Ms. Thatcher, we're ready for the report when you are.
Sorry, let me do a little flipping here. Okay. 404 South First Street is also in the Old West Side Historic District. This is a 2-story home that was built in 1916 and first occupied in 1917 by Carl Sanzi, a mechanical engineer, and printer Richard Hawthorne. On the 1916 and 1925 Sanborn maps, the house faces West William and has a full-width front porch on the north elevation, and the street address is 301 West William. This was all very interesting to learn when we were researching this house. By 1931, the front door and porch had been moved to the current configuration on the east elevation. The bay window on the north elevation was most likely added then to replace the former front door. The house is clad in 3-inch lap siding, wood lap siding on the ground floor and cedar shakes on the upper floors. It has exposed rafter tails and a round attic window in each of the 3 gables. On the 1916 through 1948 Sanborn maps, 5 houses are shown on one lot, including this one, 2 on First Street and 2 on William. All of the houses were built in 1916 and occupied in 17 or 18. 2 are Dutch gambrels and the other 3 were gable fronters, though the property in this application was altered as described. The applicant is seeking HCC approval to add a small addition to the southwest corner of the house, to add a second story above a 1-car frame garage, to remove the chimney, and to install a new concrete parking pad. All right, going through the slides. I'm really sort of baffled about why they moved the porch around to the other side of the house. It would be very interesting to know what the original layout of the floor plan was. But here is the front corner of the house. It has 3 or 4 bedrooms in the basement, and that's why there are egress windows on both this side and the West William side of the house. Those predate the modern historic preservation ordinance, where they probably wouldn't be allowed in the front yard, most likely, but they're pretty inconspicuous. The house, you can see, has 4 paned windows, and 4 over 1, and 4 over and just 4. There's some meat-leaded glass on the windows on the front porch there. This is the neighbor's driveway going back. It appears to be shared. There is a parking spot back here, sort of, let's see, let's get a picture of it, where you can pull in and get mostly out of the way. You can see the trash cans and recycling cans are kept there now. This is the back wall of the attached garage, and this fence runs down the lot line. This lot is zoned commercial, as are several other on this corner. Because of that, there's no setback requirement on the lot lines. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have any space there. You can build right up to the lot line. You probably have to do special things to make the building department happy about fireproofing walls and things like that, but it is possible to not have setbacks per zoning. Now around the back of the house, you can see, I just want to point out over here, I can't quite see it because I have people's heads in the way, but there's a window right around here somewhere. And then there's a window on the second floor, and there's a small single pane window, single sash window over here. I'm just pointing those out where you can see where they are here. The garage is the million-dollar question right now. It does not appear on the 1931 Sanborn map, which I'll show you in a sec. It does appear on the 1948 Sanborn map. And we're not sure if it's on the 1947 city aerial. I think that it's there, but I can't say that with 100% certainty because it's not crystal clear. Certainly the massing and the style with the low slope roof and this little front parapet are in keeping with garages built during the period of significance. The overhead door could have been installed in the 30s or 40s. They were making them like that by then. It is wood. But it also could have been installed later because they made those for a long time. They still make them. Here's the relationship between this house and the neighboring house. It's from the garage to the bay window that you can't quite see here is about a little less than 8 feet. And the chimney is proposed to be removed in order to free up room inside, in order to make some remodeling on the interior work. It's a straightforward chimney. It's smallish. It's used for venting. It wasn't used for like a wood fireplace or anything like that. It is likely original to the house, though, but I'm not sure I would call it a character-defining feature, though I might. Here's the 31 Sanborn fire insurance map on the left. Here's the house we're looking at. The porch has already been flipped. I think that there's a 1925 Sanborn in with the application if you want to see what it looked like with a porch facing West William. This just means this is the open front porch and a little side porch here. On the 1948 Sanborn Fire Insurance map, the automobile garage, signified by an A, is attached here, and it is 1 story. There was a lot going on this lot. Everybody else had garages, but this house did not until we hit the 1948 Sanborn, so sometime between 31 and 48. So here are the aerial photographs that I was talking about. This one on the right is the 2020. You can see the white line of the parapet. This is how a lot of parapets that have like a metal coping over the top show up on these aerial photos. They look pretty light and reflective. And in 1947, unfortunately, I could not turn these lot lines off. And it looks like there's a white line going down there. This is you can see that this line here is a break between 2 aerials, making it even more difficult. So I just, and back here, there's some sort of a gable roofed shed. You can see how the light is hitting on this side, and it's in shadow on the other side. Because there's only a couple of years here between the period of significance and our conclusive 1948 evidence that the garage was there then, and because the garage is similar in design to other attached garages, there aren't a lot of attached garages around the Old West Side, but there are a few. In fact, there's one in the neighbor's house here, but this one was put in before 31. It's back farther. I will err on the side of that the garage does have historic significance. I do believe it was from the period of significance because it matches the characteristics so closely to other ones around, and just the design and style and massing of garages of that era. Now let's get into the proposal here. Here's the site plan. This is the driveway coming off of West William. The garage starts here, and you can see the shaded area is the second-story addition that's proposed. There's a smaller first-story addition back here in the corner. This one is inset on both the corners of the house and the garage, fairly significantly, which I do appreciate. A lot of care was taken to make that happen. This is to house an ADA accessible restroom. The house is now being used mainly for office use. I believe there may still be a residence maintained in it, like an apartment, but the main floor and the upper floor are mostly office space, or proposed to be. You can see that I added new concrete parking pad to the description and the motion just for clarity, so we don't have to deal with it when somebody comes in and says, oh, they didn't get their parking pad approved. But it's just a slight expansion of the existing concrete, which you can see used to go right here, just to give them a way to pull off there with a car. Notice here that the property line does look like it goes right down the middle of the driveway, which is why both parties are using it. So they really have 1.5 driveways, which is kind of interesting. Should also note that new city regulations mean that there is no required parking. So that was an issue with this building earlier. It is no longer an issue because they could have 0 parking and it would be okay. Oops, sorry, I went too far. Okay, proposed first floor. Here we have the ADA restroom. You access it through the kitchen on the back corner of the house. The lot, I do want to point out, is only 3,328 square feet, making it on the very much the smaller side of lots in the city of Ann Arbor. Doesn't really matter because there's 0 lot lines if they can fit everything in. It's just that it's when they build 5 houses on one lot like this, they always get screwed up when they divide them up later and make lots, and they never meet the setback requirements and blah blah blah. So the commercial zoning is actually very helpful in this case. All right, this is the proposed second floor plan. You can see this room here. It's 16 feet 1 or 7 inches by 9 feet 7 3/4. Has a window facing the front, windows facing the back over the new roof for the accessible bathroom. Roof plan. This is the porch roof, and there is a wall dormer above that with a gable. And this new roof is proposed to also be a gable that's inset, and it matches the pitch of the other roof slopes on the house. This is a lower slope shed on the back. We'll get to in just a sec, or a hip. We'll get to it in just a sec. From the front, this is the existing exterior elevation. There's really not anything being changed, so I didn't include the proposed as a comparison. This is the existing south elevation on the left and the proposed on the right. You can see this is where we went down the driveway between them and the neighbor and looked at the trash cans. This is that view of the garage. Here's the new addition proposed with a sloping roof, a shed roof, and the second story addition beyond it. You can see where that gable is inset into the roof. That's at an appropriate height and everything. Now we've moved on to the west elevation. This is the side of the garage facing the William Street neighbor. This is the new second story addition, the new first floor addition, and you can see that because the garage slopes backwards, they've had to modify the pitch on the front here so it would no longer have that little parapet look. But the new addition is set back several feet there in order to distinguish it from the front of the house and the garage there. Existing north exterior elevation. What you notice here is the second floor addition. I do have some concerns about this addition matching really closely to the rest of the house. It has the exposed rafter tails. It has matching shingle or siding, shake siding in cedar. The windows are aluminum clad, which helps a little bit. But I think that if the commission were to consider this for approval, we might need a few tweaks to just distinguish this a little better from the way that it's drawn, but that's easy enough to do. Here's a section showing the existing garage and both of the additions. You can see that they're working on several different levels here. This comes off of the kitchen, the bathroom, but it's significantly higher than the existing garage. The bathroom is on a new basement, which would tie into the existing basement, which is kind of interesting, I think. I have read to you standards, Standard 2. Standard 5 says that distinctive materials, features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize a property will be preserved. I've read to you number 9. Number 10 says new additions and adjacent or related new construction will be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property will be unimpaired. From the guidelines for additions, it's recommended to place functions and services required for the new use in non-character defining interior spaces rather than installing a new addition. It's also recommended to construct a new addition so that there's the least possible loss of historic materials. So character defining features are not obscured, damaged, or destroyed. From the guidelines for additions, it's recommended to locate the attached exterior addition at the rear or on an inconspicuous side of a historic building, limiting the size and scale in relationship to the historic building, and designing them in a manner that makes clear what is historic and what is new. It's recommended to consider the attached exterior addition in terms of the new use and the appearance of other buildings in the historic district or neighborhood. Design may be contemporary or reference design motifs from the historic building. It's recommended to design additional stories when required for the new use that are set back from the wall plane and are as inconspicuous as possible when viewed from the street. It is not recommended to expand the size of the historic building by constructing a new addition when the new use could be met by altering non-character defining interior space. It's also not recommended to design a new addition so the size and scale are out of proportion, thus diminishing the historic character, or duplicating the exact form, material, style, and detailing of the historic building in the new addition so that the new work appears to be part of the historic building. Not recommended is introducing new construction that's visually incompatible or that destroys historic relationships within the setting. From the Ann Arbor Historic District Design Guidelines, it's not appropriate to construct an addition that significantly changes the proportion of built mass to open space on the individual site. It's also not appropriate to design an addition that overpowers or dramatically alters the original building through size or height. For roofs, it's appropriate to retain and maintain original historic roofing materials, roof shade, dormers, cupolas, chimneys, and built-in or decorative gutters and downspouts. It is not appropriate to remove or alter historic features such as chimneys. Oh, let me go back up. All right, and see what staff comments I have for you that I haven't already given you. I originally divided this into two motions so that you could think about the two different additions separately, but the first floor addition is tied into the second floor addition in such a way that you really can't make either one of them stand alone like that. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So this is one addition and this is the other addition, and they really tie into each other here. So everything is in one addition at this point. I really have no qualms with the size and location of the restroom addition. I think it's great that they were able to tuck it into the back corner. It's very inconspicuous. You'll never see it except from the neighbor's yard. The garage addition, I do have some concerns about because I do believe that this is an architecturally significant contributing garage because I do believe it was built during the period of significance. And as such, I don't believe that it is appropriate to put a second story on it. If the commission were to decide otherwise, that it's not a contributing structure, then I think that the addition on top may be appropriate with some tweaks to the design to make it a little more distinguished from the historic parts of the house. But I really think that this one comes down to whether or not that garage is a contributing portion of the house. The chimney, that's another one where the commission will just need to determine whether the chimney is a character-defining feature of the house. If not, it can be removed. If it is, it should not be removed. So staff does believe that the proposed addition of a second story on the garage is not compatible in exterior design arrangement, texture, material, in relationship to the rest of the building, and does not meet the Secretary of Interior standards or the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines. That concludes staff's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. So let's hear from the review committee. It's Commissioner Quijano and Fortner.
Sure. Well, Jill did a great job walking us through the application. It was very thorough, and it was a thorough application to begin with, so
Yes, it is.
appreciate that. Let's see. On the south side, maybe we'll start there, the south elevation along, driveway off of First. It's very close to the adjacent property, so, oh, can you not hear me? Oh, on the First Street driveway side, very close to the adjacent property, so I don't think the addition will be very conspicuous there. It's, tucked in, there's a lot of vegetation, and it's, as Jill pointed out, it's set back from the main side wall quite a bit, so I think that I have no issues there. The chimney is quite plain and small compared to the rest of the property, and I wouldn't call it a character-defining feature, so no concerns on my part there. It's really, the question of the garage, whether it's contributing or not, and I'd like to maybe we can have a discussion about that. And I am a bit concerned about the scale of the addition on top of the garage. I was walking up and down William, looking at the adjacent properties, and there's just very clear, void between each of the homes there, and that, I read this addition as a very solid wall plane being introduced, and so reconciling with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. The chimney is pretty inconspicuous and not a character-defining feature, that the first floor addition is as good as it could be, but yeah, is the garage contributing?
That is the question. Okay, thank you. I think we have the applicant here. Great. If you could come up to the podium, please. Unmute your microphone. That was a joke. You've got 5 minutes to speak, and let us know if you'd like to add anything to the staff report or the review committee report, and please state your name and address. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Teresa Angelini. I'm the architect working with Chuck Albrecht on this project, and my address is 1315 Beechwood in Ann Arbor. So I did send a PDF of a PowerPoint to Jill, since there were some questions that arose when we met on site with on Monday. So I thought it would help to describe a little bit about the site. So once that is up on the monitor. And thank you very much, Jill, for your thorough presentation. So just wanted to clarify a few things about the site, because it is unusual and very small. So on the next slide, I just look at the zoning. The red circle is drawn around 404 South First. So you can see that all the pink C2B commercial zoning is in a row there at the corner from William down First. There's also office further west. Across the street is the D2. There's the empty parking lot. Well, there's some sheds on it. There's the railroad tracks, which does make it very hard to sleep at night when people have stayed there. And it's different than, although the structures may look like they're very similar to others on the Old West Side, it is not the typical R4C houses that you see through the rest of the neighborhood. And even the uniqueness of they're all squeezed together, the 5 of those on that original property. So just wanted to, clarify that this is on the fringe of the Old West Side, and the zoning is commercial, it's not residential, and it's just not, it doesn't fit the standard stereotype, I think, of what you think of with the Old West Side. So on the next slide, just also to clarify the zoning setbacks, at some point we got a survey because it was just kind of puzzling to figure out, like, how close is that garage to the property line? And it turns out, yes, it is a property line. So the edge of the garage, the west face, is exactly on the property line. The red dash line there shows that, property, the zoning allows it to be built up to the west edge and to the south edge. And then there's a 10-foot setback on the east and the north. The site plan doesn't show completely that there are 2 egress windows on the north side, 2 egress windows on the south side. Obviously, the porch is on the east side, so there's not much opportunity to expand this very small footprint that's just around 650 square feet. So the ADA restroom area is shown in pink, and then the office mezzanine on top of the garage there is just shown in the purple maroon color. Okay, on the next slide, I think Jill's covered a lot of the history of the use, but we thought it was pretty fascinating too to find out that front entry was changed from West William to South First. And just in terms of the history of the use, the previous owners at some point moved out, and then it was used as a rental for student use from about 2005 to 2021. So really for the last 15 years, it's been student rental. It was purchased in 2021 for use as this engineering office, and The business has remote workers kind of nationwide, so the goal is that Ann Arbor's a great place downtown. It's right on the edge of the downtown. They can come here for meetings. There are bedrooms that they could stay over. So it, you know, it supports their business, and it really fits very nicely. And it's kind of a tricky site of, you know, in the long run, like who lives across from the railroad track, and just, you know, this is a small building, so how it can be used commercially or residentially. And I think, you know, when you looked at the floor plans in Jill's presentation, you could see that it is pretty typical of a house that has like the living room sort of on the side of the house where the bay window is, the center entries in the front, and then there's kind of a small dining room and a small kitchen in the back. There's no restroom on the first floor. There's no, I don't see how one can be squeezed in very easily. The one on the second floor is an older one that doesn't, you know, like there's a tub there that doesn't have a surround on the sides of it. In the basement, the ceiling height is very low down there, and that bathroom is really pretty compromised at like 6'1" in terms of the ceiling under the ductwork. So in terms of needing a restroom, this needs a restroom on the first floor, ideally. And even though there are steps to get up there, you know, with commercial zoning or commercial use, we would want to do it as an ADA restroom. So on the next slide, there's some statistics. So just in terms of the finished floor levels, you know, this was also it kind of illustrated in the section that Jill showed, but with the different heights between the garage and the first floor. And then when we discovered, oh, we could do this addition, you know, there was the opportunity with the mezzanine height to be on top of the garage, and that could be a space that could still be perceived as office use. It wasn't really second floor bedroom, so it was kind of an intermediate sort of use for that. So that seemed like it really suited the use for this particular, you know, property. Ceiling heights, just to clarify, you know, to note on the basement, there are 3 bedrooms down there, but the ceilings are, you know, pretty low in some areas, and so it kind of varies between 6'1.5" and 6'10.5". Otherwise, the first floor is pretty normal at 8'3", and the second floor is just right around 8 feet. And just, you know, in terms of how to add to this property, the garage, you know, is sloping down in terms of the roof towards the south side. So anything, that ideal area where we've got the opportunity to add for a restroom would result in the garage, you know, sloping into it. And with the ceiling heights, you know, and that show up in the section, it's hard to add anything where the roof is not, the water is not being pitched into that addition. So on the next slide, just in that back area, which you saw in Jill's slide, but just wanted to note that the smaller image or photo shows the confluence of downspouts and gutters coming into that area, because it seems like all the water is being dumped in that corner right now, rather than kind of half of it out to the street towards William and half of it down this way and around. So, and so just in terms of square footages, you know, it's like 665, 675 for the floor plans, footprints. So around 1,300 for the square footage of the house. Basement, you know, 665, but again, got compromised ceiling heights. So the proposed ADA restroom is 60 square feet, and the office addition on the mezzanine would be 160. So none of these are very large. I mean, it's a pretty small structure to start with, and it would still be. So on the next slide, just what is character defining about this structure. And as an architect, this is, you know, from my perspective, our office's perspective, just of looking at this really closely, of, you know, what defines this about to make it historical or significant. And that strong gable form in the north-south direction, you know, that's important. The front porch with the gable roof, the stucco base, the tapered columns, it gives the character of the house. And then that front centered gable, that's the dormer on the second floor, that kind of centers above the front porch. Again, nicely done. It identifies the house. The bay window on the north that we're kind of guessing now is where the front door might have been. That also sort of anchors the corner nicely. So and the siding of the house in general, just it's raised above the street and the sidewalk. And that does elevate it, and it kind of marks the corner nicely. So, simple windows, they're the double hung, transoms above the picture windows on the porch, the small round ones in the upper gables. And the paint colors, I know the historic district isn't really judging things on paint colors, but I think it works nicely, and that's what's been there for some years. So in the front of it, it's really the front scene from First, and then from the corner as seen from the northeast of William and First. And that garage is a little bit set back, and I know that, you're agonizing over the age of the garage and if it contributes to the character of the house and the structure in the neighborhood. Although it is older, it's up to the property line. To us, it doesn't seem like a wonderful amenity that defines the neighborhood. I mean, the garage that's attached to the teal house to the west of it, is set back. It's an older one. It's got the older type of garage doors. With this one, we were trying to be sensitive to it by setting the addition back, 3.5 feet. We could set it back a little bit more, but we were also trying to keep the gable proportional to the front one so that kind of came through and was similar in size. So it didn't look like an oddly dwarfed little thing on the back. That it was proportional to the front of the house. So on the next slide, I think Jill has hit these with her slides. But, the proposed ADA restroom is tucked into that southwest corner. The removal of the chimney just doesn't feel like removing a character-defining element. And what it does do for us is allows passage through the kitchen and through the stairway to the basement without kind of winding through the kitchen and getting interfered with the doors to the ADA, or the door to the ADA restroom, and giving a wider stairway going down. And the proposed office mezzanine is set back from the north front face of the garage. And then the mezzanine addition roof sheds water appropriately, so kind of half to the north and half to the south, rather than it all ending up on the south. And the proposed office addition complements the original roof line. And the siding and roof detailing, we'd be very happy to do cement board siding or enclosed rafter tails of, whatever was deemed to be most in keeping. We did include an egress size window on the north face, thinking that it could be a sleeping room, and if so, it ought to have an egress window. The ones on the south are just more for ventilation, and that's above the restroom part. So my last slide is just to hit the highlights here, that it's, things that are unusual here is the site's commercially zoned. It's on the edge of the Old West Side. It has 2 fronts on South First and on West William. It has no first floor restroom. The garage roof is sloping to the south, and it's resulting in water pooled on the southwest corner. And the commercial office use at this location is ideal at the fringe of the downtown and near the railroad tracks, since it's hard to sleep here on a regular basis. And the additional mezzanine office space makes this house usable for office meetings, and it supplements the first floor one-room office space.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask the commissioners if you have any questions for the applicant. Seeing none over there. No questions over here as well. Okay, so now we got to go to the public hearing. And so we'll open the public hearing for this item, and it's an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes about this application at 404 South First. So the phone number is on the agenda, and press star 9 if you're on your phone. There's no one here. Is there anyone on the phone?
There are no callers.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll close the public hearing for this application, and I'll ask Commissioner to please make a motion.
I'll read it.
Commissioner Quijano, please, thank you.
Get to it. Sorry.
Take your time.
Okay, yeah, this one.
Now, I think there might be two motions on the worksheet, is that right? Ms.
no.
Thatcher, or is there, there's
No,
just
there
one?
should only
Okay,
be
very
one.
good. All right.
All right. I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 404 South First Street, a contributing property in the Old West Side Historic District, to add a small addition to the southwest corner of the house, to add a second story above a one-car frame garage, to remove the chimney and install a new concrete parking pad as proposed. The work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 5, 9, and 10, and the guidelines for additions, as well as the Ann Arbor Historic District design guidelines, in particular the guidelines for additions and residential accessory structures.
Support.
Okay, thank you. That was a motion by Commissioner Quijano, and it was seconded by Commissioner White. And so now we'll open up a discussion here, and I think we'll categorize the discussion in a few different ways here. And first, let's just talk about the chimney. I think we've heard some comments already about the chimney, basically them being that it's really, it might be possibly a character-defining feature, but it's not a significant one in any way. In fact, it's probably a insignificant character-defining feature. If anything, I think that's what we've heard. Does anyone have any comments to raise or dispute that? Okay. So I think that we're clear on the chimney. And now we've also heard about the garage. And that is really the crux, I think, of this application here, is whether or not the garage is contributing. And so we've heard from staff that that the garage is contributing. And so let's just go with that. And I wonder if anyone has any comments on the garage being contributing. Do you support that the garage is contributing? Do you disagree with that statement? It'd be nice to hear from some of the commissioners on that. Commissioner White.
Well, I think it's contributing, but I also believe that we can put something on top of it and still keep the contributing part in the front. And, but that's it. I think we should build the second floor.
Any other comments on the garage or response to that comment?
I don't know, I mean, it's not like we haven't approved, additions on top of contributing structures, right? We've done that before, and then it comes down to the scale and the massing and how that compares to the rest of the property and if it detracts from the rest of the structure. So if I don't know, does that help if we think of it in that way?
But do we think of it in terms of the impact on the structure as a whole, so the impact of the addition on the whole structure? Because it's a small part of the whole. It's a big part of the garage.
Well, I think let's just focus on, is the garage contributing or not? And then we'll talk about the addition in a second and how the addition does or does not remove the contributing portions of the garage. But it sounds like people are comfortable with the garage being contributing. I'm not hearing anyone say that the garage is not a contributing structure. And I would also agree with that the garage is contributing. I think that this lot, we've heard about the difficulties of this lot, and it is true. It's a corner lot, and in particular, I think that's the biggest issue is that corner lots are very difficult to achieve the counter standards of you need to be compatible and you somehow need to differentiate, and what you're building, if it's in the rear, it's very easy to be compatible because you don't see it from the sidewalk. And so we have approved many second floors on top of first floors. A lot of times it's either in the back, or if it's in the side, it's sort of in the rear of the property
Right.
on the side. So this is slightly different than the ones, at least that I have in my mind, but I guess I'm getting ahead of myself in that, I guess now let's talk about the addition itself. Now that we are all in somewhat agreement, at least, that the garage is contributing in some way. So Commissioner Fortner, will you pick back up on that comment you were saying earlier about how you feel the addition does or does not contribute?
Well, that generally, when we're looking at additions, it's on the impact of the total structure and the percentage of the square footage and, those things. And so it certainly falls within the guidelines for those considerations. If we're just looking at the impact on the garage, then it's doubling the size of the garage, maybe more. So do we apply the whole building?
Yes, I think we do apply the whole
Yeah.
building. If the garage was a separate structure, then it would just be the garage, but since the garage is attached, then I agree that we look at it as the entire building. And it is quite a small part of the footprint. I'll interject with a comment about the garage. I think that in particular, I think that the parapet of the garage is a character-defining feature of that garage. And so if the garage is contributing, I really feel like the parapet is almost the key character-defining feature of that garage.
And the door.
The door and the parapet and the slope roof. So removing the parapet, to me, is not appropriate. And so it seems minor in terms of the entire addition, but I can't, that's what's presented here. So I'm not even getting to the rest because I feel like I'm stuck right there on the parapet. Let's hear from Commissioner Ross.
Is it too late for me to ask Teresa a question?
No, we can ask a question, but let's hear from Commissioner Ross.
So-
Yeah.
so I have
Because
a-
you had,
So do we have the ability to ask a question of the applicant still?
Yeah.
that's exactly what, Teresa, could you come back up to the podium? We've got a couple
Right.
questions for you.
'Cause I-
One from Commissioner Ross, and then we have another one here from Commissioner Fortner. But Commissioner Ross, can we start with you?
Okay, and, not that, I'm not an architect and not that we're here to design for any particular applicant, but I was just curious to understand if you can kind of run over why this addition can't be slid back towards the rear wall of this bathroom addition, so that the garage could sit a little bit more true in terms of at least the parapet and the and the slope. I mean, why it has to be pushed so much forward? Because
Well-
looking at the floor plan, it doesn't seem to be
Yeah, we were,
a plan issue.
a good question. We were really centering it on the door from the mezzanine level of the stairway, and then, and backing it up from the front face of the garage. We can't, the floor of that mezzanine can't overlap over top of the restroom because they're at different heights. So we can't go any further on that side. I mean, we could shorten it up, a foot, say, on the front part. We were sloping the roof on top of it to shed water, but, if, we would certainly be willing to compromise and leave the kind of, false western front there
Yeah.
and figure out a way to capture water inside there and, get it out. But right now, it was really about shedding water out to the street and away from the structure.
So how set back from the north facade is the first-story addition over the garage?
I believe it's 3'7", but I am working from memory
Joe,
here.
if you go back to the actual picture of the house. So I think, Teresa, you had told me on site that it would start where that closet window is.
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, because if you look at the proposed plan, so on the second floor plan on A101, so you can see where the window is infilled there on the second floor, and we were lining it with that, though I think really it had to do with the center line of the gable up above. So anyway, we could bring it in another foot or something if that made a difference. It's already 3'7" back, but if 4'7" was the happy medium for everyone, we can't extend it over the top of the restroom because it's a different height. And if you look at the section there that's on that last page, I think, it kind of shows
Right.
where the first floor is and where the first floor ceiling is with that.
I have a question. Well, could we just distinguish it by different material? So you can show where the garage is there and then a different material at the top. That way you can look at it and you can see what used to be there. And that's just the garage portion. And above it on the second floor, we have a kind of a different material, different siding, so you can see what used to be there from the garage portion, yet the second floor has a different, distinguished look.
Yes, that would be very agreeable. Because it is kind of an unusually tall, I think because it has to slope so far back to the south side in terms of the pitch inside, but yeah, we could leave that height there. It would be nice to slope the roof on top of it, as the shed to shed water off. Otherwise, it's kind of a flat roof inside that we're then trying to capture water and bring through the interior in a gutter or something and shoot it out through there. So it would just make things a little more complicated for water shedding if it was just the false front without a pitched roof up above it.
No, I think.
I don't know.
That would be,
It's hard to comment because now we're just
Yes.
changing things sort of midstream here. But yeah, obviously,
yeah.
if the garage roof is sloping back to the addition, that's not a good situation. Yes?
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, water always complicates things.
Yeah.
But to touch upon some of the comments made by the commissioners here, I agree. If we're saying that the garage structure is contributing, then those front-facing features of it, although, not at the same level as the main house, those are the few features that we do see from the public right away. So that parapet, that configuration, I would say is significant for the garage. So altering that with a sloped kind of new shed roof, I would not support. But then also for the second story addition, I agree that distinguishing the materials of the new construction would help the case, to help differentiate the new and the old. But yeah, I agree, it would make for some interesting water management.
I'm circling back around to Commissioner Fortner's comment earlier, kind of struggling with, is this a garage addition or is this a house addition? And I'm actually coming back around completely, I think, and realizing that I thought, just square footage wise, obviously it counts for the whole house, but I think that this is an addition on top of a garage, is what it is, an accessory building, let's say, that's attached. If this accessory building was 1 foot off of the house and not attached, this would not be appropriate. It would destroy the character of the garage. And that just, I feel like, is what is happening here, that when you will look at this completed structure, the character of the garage is going to be completely destroyed, unfortunately, by this second story. I think that an addition would work on this house, and I think that the addition is appropriate where it is if it was a one-story back wing or something like that. We see a lot of those where it's not destroying the character of the house because that back little wing wasn't, kind of distinguished in its own as an entity. Now I'm thinking that this, so anyway, that's sort of summarizing my latest thinking. Be nice to hear comments about that.
I agree.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Not without trying to put my design hat on, which is
Right,
not our
right.
purview, so, wait, yeah.
So I guess to summarize, the first floor addition in the back corner, I haven't heard any comments that said that that is not appropriate. It really comes down to modifying the front of the garage and then also building an addition on top of the garage as proposed here. I mean, it's possible that some other proposed addition I would not feel would wreck the character defining features. But I,
Yeah. And I'm correct that if the addition were not put on the top, if the second floor addition was not added to the garage, the first floor bathroom addition would still require changes to the roof of the garage. Because
Yes.
you've got your same water flow issue again, because the
Yes.
first floor addition bathroom would be higher.
it would be a totally redesigned project. If they were just doing the one-story addition, I think that the architect would probably come up with a different solution, yeah.
Yeah, we can't kind of plug and play.
Yeah.
I was basically just restating that just so you kind of know where we're at.
Right.
I know that you didn't provide us with two different options.
No.
I just to be clear, kind of what we're hearing here. Are there any other comments before we go to a vote? Okay, hearing none. Okay, so all of those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no.
No.
No. The motion does not carry.
So if you want
How could I-
to, if you want to resubmit.
Yeah.
As long as the new application is substantially different from what was not approved here tonight, then the commission will accept a new application to look at something different.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So just to not waste my client's time nor mine. So if we were to, like, if, hate to ask, but if you look at like the second floor or whatever, if we were to add on top of part of the garage, because the second, because at that point it's higher, it would result possibly in the opportunity to enlarge the little back bedroom there. If we were to then bring out the wall to align with kind of close to where the stairway wall is or where the window is from the stairway. But we would have to solve the flat roof problem of the garage, which sounds like a pitch is not allowable. So, I mean, a pitched roof that's separately as a shed on top of it. So is that different enough to be able to come back and talk about that?
Ms. Thatcher, is that a question for you?
I can't visualize what
Right,
you just
yeah.
described well
Okay.
enough.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I think I know what you meant, but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Okay.
I mean, please contact the city and ask that same question again, and we'll
And
be
if
happy
you-
to work with you.
If you
Yeah.
ever want to run something by me, I can also send it to the three officers and just confirm with them, is this okay, is this substantial enough? Not like finished drawings, just like, something on a napkin is fine. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to hearing F4, 1510 Broadway. Ms. Thatcher, will you please give the staff report?
I will in one moment.
Okay, take a moment.
All right, 1510 Broadway is in the Broadway Historic District. We're talking about this barn tonight. It is next to a high-style Italianate, which was built in 1862, though it may have been older than that. But this is the 1 3/4 story barn on the west property line. It uses the address 1510 and the house 1520 Broadway. It's a cool barn. It's pretty straightforward. It has a lot of original feel to it. And the applicant is seeking HDC approval to install a new wood person door in a new opening on the rear wall of the barn, which is a contributing historic structure. So this is the front of the barn. The house is over there on the left. You can see it, big brick Italianate, very cool. And the barn is quite a ways away from the house. It has its own driveway going down here. I'm standing on the sidewalk when I take this. It's slightly skewed because it's one of those wide angle shots, but it's set back a good way from the street. It's very traditional barn design. It has 2 windows on this elevation, and there's a door, a hinge door here, and a hinge door on the front. The back has windows on the second floor, but the first floor is completely void of openings. If you look right here, a couple of stepping stones have been placed where the door would be located on the back of the garage. And again, this is just a person door, minimal trim, just very straightforward. Since this is on the back, it would not be visible from the street. This is required for code purposes. They want to, excuse me, to finish portions of the interior, and you're not allowed to have just the one sliding barn door as your egress door. So adding another person door on the back becomes necessary. This is it here. It would have just a new simple landing of pavers. This would not be used as a dwelling unit or as an accessory apartment or anything like that. It's proposed to be finished space for an artist gallery. Has a skylight up here up top already. Here's the door. It is simple wood, vertical board, plank. It would be painted to match the red barn. I have already read standards 2, 5, and 9 to you tonight. From the guidelines for accessibility, it's recommended to design new or additional means of access that are compatible with the historic building and its setting, which this is. From the guidelines for entrances, it's recommended to design and install additional entrances when required for new use in a manner that preserves the historic character of the building, limiting them to non-character defining elevations, which this certainly does. Not recommended is cutting new entrances on primary elevations, which this is not. Altering utilitarian or service entrances so they appear to be formal entrances, that's not applicable. And staff believes that this is a completely appropriate application in all ways and recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thatcher. So now let's hear from our review committee.
I don't really have anything to add to that. It's
Okay.
pretty clear. It is back, in the back, far back corner of the lot. That door will be invisible to anybody who isn't walking back there.
Yeah, I agree. That is, the location is probably the most inconspicuous location it could be.
Very good. Thank you. The applicant, please step to the podium, state your name and address. You could speak for up to 5 minutes on the egress door if you'd like. Do you have anything to add to the staff report or the review committee?
David Lewis, 440 South Main Street, Ann Arbor. Do not have anything really to add. I think Jill did a good job covering things. Just to kind of reiterate, the homeowner had no desire to put the store in necessarily. She was very sensitive about keeping the exterior of the barn as is per the historic district guidelines. And it was only, this proposed door is only being proposed because it's a building department requirement.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? No. Okay, now let's open the public hearing for this. For this item, this is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes on this application. The phone numbers are on the agenda, as is the meeting ID. There's no one here present, and there's no one on the phone, so we will close the public hearing. And I will ask, would a commissioner please make a motion on this application? Commissioner Willis will.
I move that the commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the application at 1510 Broadway Street, a contributing property in the Broadway Historic District, to install a new wood door in a new opening on the rear elevation of the barn. The proposed work is compatible in exterior design, arrangement, texture, material, and relationship to the rest of the building and the surrounding area, and meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings, in particular standards 2, 5, and 9, and the guidelines for accessibility and entries and porches.
Second.
That was moved by Commissioner Willis and seconded by Commissioner White. Is there any discussion on the motion? No. Okay. I think this is very cut and dry, so we're just going to go right to a vote here. All those in favor of the motion, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, please say no. The motion carries. Your application has been approved. Please note that you must apply for any required permits from the city before beginning your project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that is it for hearings. So now looking at the agenda, we will go to G, new business, and we do have some new business today, and it's the annual election of officers nominating committee appointment. Ms. Thatcher.
I'm asking for volunteers to be the nominating committee for
Yes, I
HCC
volunteer.
officers.
Okay, we've got Commissioner White volunteering. Is that
Would
is that
anyone
all we
like to
need?
join him, or are you okay solo?
I'm willing to accept everyone. If no one wants to do it, I'll still be there.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate that, Commissioner White. Thank you. Okay, there's no other new business, so we're going to move on to the approval of the minutes. That's H. H1, let's see, it says August 11th, but I'm almost positive that the July
Yes.
minutes were sent out. So the agenda should read July, and we're going to look at the July
14.
14th draft meeting minutes. And everyone should have received those. And so if there's any comments,
I didn't have any comments.
okay. Comments or corrections? None? Okay, so seeing none of either of those, we will approve the minutes without objection. And now we will move on to I, reports from commissioners. And I'm not seeing any reports, so let's move on. We'll go to assignments, and we will assign the review committee.
And we have one correction.
Yeah,
Review committee on October 10 is at noon.
okay, well, I'll raise my hand for
Switching to our
that.
winter schedule.
Oh, I don't see that.
It's Indigenous Peoples' Day as well, / Columbus Day. I can do noon on the 10th. We're talking about October 10th, is that right?
thought City Hall was closed that day.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's check the,
Let's take a look.
that's why I said that out loud. It didn't
you.
seem right, but is it possible that we'll be meeting on the 11th?
I don't think City Hall is closed.
Okay, very good.
So let's leave it at the 10th, and on the 10th, and I'll check that out, but I don't have it on my work calendar, so
Yeah.
I don't think I have it all. If it's a conflict for any of you, don't volunteer. If you've got the day off, certainly don't come to review committee.
Yeah. Supplemental.
Anyone else? We've got one taker so far. Okay.
I guess I will.
Okay, I'm sorry, was that Bev and Jen?
one more recently.
Oh, I raised my
you
hand
too.
already,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Because I haven't done it in a while. The 5 PMs just don't work for me, but.
Did you decide amongst yourselves?
Yeah, I'll do November. Yeah, I'll do.
Okay, we have no meeting in November, so you picked a good month.
I was like, wait a minute, I'll do November.
On the record.
Okay, we have Commissioner Ross and Rockland, thank you.
Very good. Okay, so with assignments being done, we'll move on to K, reports from staff.
The only thing I have to report is that unfortunately at Cobblestone Farm this week, there was a lot of vandalism. And a bunch of windows got broken on the first floor of the house.
Terrible.
So if you go by and see some boarding, that's why. Park staff has been in touch, or is getting in touch, I haven't talked to them in a couple of days, with the people who repaired the windows previously and installed some replicas, and hopefully they'll be able to take on the work quickly. But, yeah,
Was this like one single event, or was it
this
like?
was a single event,
Okay.
is the way I understand it, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the ones that were broken, I don't know if they threw something through them or what, but a lot of windows, it sounds like were broken and on the first floor, and they've been boarded, so I'm still kind of waiting for more details, but once they get a window person out there, I may have more for you on that. It's unfortunate,
Very,
but that's all I have for reports from staff.
thank you. And it's good to have you back here, Ms. Thatcher. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening. Okay.
We're missed.
Right? L, concerns of commissioners. Are there any that you'd like to address out loud? Seeing none, we'll head to communications, and I do not believe there are any general communications, are there? There was one for a project, but,
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
Nothing else.
very good. So in that case, we will adjourn. I adjourn the September 8th, 2022 Historic District Commission meeting.